Hello there guys and welcome back to another episode of MCOC Character Breakdown. This is our take 17 because despite the champion having hardly any text at all, I just seemingly can't find the right words to describe him. But either way, gonna give it my best, so let's go. And today we're gonna talk about Yellowjacket. Now, Yellowjacket is nobody's favorite champion in the game. I'm quite confident when I'm stating this, nobody particularly likes this champion. You know why? Because he isn't particularly great. When you look at the Yellowjacket, and I certainly took a look at him today properly, and I was absolutely shocked how little piece of information you can read in his ability description. It's kind of like Kabam decided not to bother much and basically just did nothing with the champion. So he's a forgettable villain in a relatively forgettable Marvel movie, and he certainly reflects that in MCOC as well. But let's jump to the next scene and start discussing this original Power Sting champion, which is actually becoming more and more actual theme in these days, largely because Kabam creating That's Gonna Sting node, I suppose. But even though Power Sting is like the one thing Yellowjacket has, he still sucks at it. But okay, let's go. Let's start with the basics and work our way through, I suppose. And I'm gonna make this video as quick as I can. So base info, he's Yellowjacket, he's a science class, he's size medium, and his most notable champion tags in the game would be Villain, Metal, and Control. Now Metal implying that he can be magnetized by Magneto, or the fact that he can receive support from Bulwark node when placed in Alliance War defense. Now Control now is quite an important thing because how dominant flow defensive tactic is in Alliance War defense, so that actually could mean that Yellowjacket is relatively viable defender option even for tier 1 Alliance Wars, just because of the brokenness of the flow tactics. So he can and probably is making resurgence during Alliance Wars, and you have to remember that the guy is Control champion, and when you're facing him, he's gonna be gifted with huge amounts of power gain in Alliance War defense. Right, all that being said, let's discuss his damage, and there's not too much to talk about there. His damage output wasn't great at the time when he came out, and by extension in today's damage it would mean that inflation has taken over and his damage is extremely subpar. He's really underwhelming offensive character with pretty much absolutely no utility outside of his power thing, I suppose. He delivers his damage with his basic attacks and special attacks, obviously, but like the one added extra that can help him deal somewhat larger amount of damage, I guess, is Power Sting. Now the problem with that is because he doesn't have any inherent ways how to cycle through specials quickly, therefore you apply Power Stings relatively seldomly because you have to build up to at least a bar of power, and obviously then there's always the chance an opponent simply won't throw the special attack in time, and then they get stunned, and then you need to sit there waiting out, unwilling to push them 3 bars of power, and then you can try again. And overall he has absolutely nothing in order to contribute for a pleasant offensive champion use. So yeah, offensively kind of like a dud. And that's saying a lot for a champion that doesn't really have much going on in ability description anywhere else. Right, now let's start talking about Yellowjacket as an opponent. Now, the one most characteristic thing when facing Yellowjacket and most commonly people get caught by is his level 1. His level 1 has a fairly extended kind of like duration of beams that you can evade in close proximity if you time your decks perfectly. Otherwise though, most often people get clipped. I can get clipped frequently if I try to like fully dex that special attack from close proximity. However, there is a very easy workaround because Yellowjacket's beams kind of does have the max end range, and that means if you can get far away from him, then dexing them out will be kind of like much easier. And the biggest advice I can give to anybody facing a Yellowjacket is whenever he will have more than a bar of power at the time of you finishing your combo, finish your combo at 4 hits, because in that way you get kind of like more time to dash away, and if he's going to throw his special attack, you're just going to be at the very end of the screen at that point, and you're going to be able to simply dex out of range, so to speak. So rather than trying to dex the level 1 in very close proximity from Yellowjacket, I suggest everybody just finish their combos with 4 or 3 hit combos, and then just run away as far as they can from opposite side of the screen, and then it becomes a very easy way how to deal with that level 1. Obviously, alternate option is simply to push him to level 2, which is much more easier to time, as those beams that he shoots do not have as long of a duration. Now, another mention I wanted to note here is that he is flow target. He is classed as a control champion, so once again he is seeing Resurgence as an Alliance War defender, and whenever you see him in Alliance War, you should definitely double check whether the flow global is active and what nodes are there, if you're going to be able to stun him, or you're basically going to have to take this fight a lot more seriously, because now today, if you have faced the Yellowjacket a couple of times in the past, he's a very easy champion to acclimate to and not a tricky champion to defeat, because he has no away, no auto block, no inherent power gain, none of that stuff. Only thing that's somewhat annoying about him is that level 1. However, if he starts gaining power like a crazy madman, consistently shooting those level 1s that are hard to dex in close proximity, he can become a formidable defender. Therefore, originally I wanted to plaster him as a low tier Alliance War defense option or whatever, but no, realistically, think about it, because of flow, he can be really potentially tricky opponent, especially because if the flow node is active and he's shooting a level 1, you can think that you're safe to dash back in, and then if you try to dash back in, he already would have enough power to throw another level 1, and then you can get hit by that one. He's commonly placed on unblockable special 1 nodes for this specific reason, that he is one of the champions whose level 1s is not really all that easy to get used to or evade. So be aware of that. Other than that, in like regular average quests, unless the nodes beef him up extremely hard, he's not really the hardest opponent to face off against if you are experienced and you know what you are doing. Now let's talk about utility. Has none. It's about it. Like, he literally has like 9 lines of text, and about 8 lines of those 9 basically say that he inflicts power sting with his special attack. So there's literally nothing else going on for the champion. Utility is non-power sting, can't be considered as a utility, I suppose, but Yellowjacket is so awful and offers so little to the table that even for a node that's gonna sting, that's effectively designed specifically for champion that can inflict power sting, you're gonna be much better off finding roundabout ways like using Quake or Void, just dealing that passive damage over time abilities, or just damage over time effects, or just bringing in a champion who can out damage Yellowjacket like 10 times better. Like, there are actually champions in the game who can deliver more than 10 times the amount of damage than Yellowjacket has, therefore making them better options for a power sting path than Yellowjacket himself, even though he's like the OG power stinger. That is how unfortunately outdated and archaic his ability set is. Or lack thereof, like, as he has no ability set, that's the problem. He does nothing. Only other ability that doesn't talk about him being able to inflict power sting on every single special attack is he can gain a precision buff. I believe it's about 8% chance for each attack that he lands, and that is it. So he has access to that precision buff. No immunities, nothing else works for him, so yeah, unfortunately Yellowjacket seems to have drawn the short straw when it comes to ability set designers by Kabam, I guess, and somebody did a very extremely incredibly shit job at him. All that being said, let's talk about notable uses. Again, I was saying low-level Alliance War defense, and that's how I wanted to mention it, but actually I'm gonna delete it now that low-level. I'm just gonna leave Alliance War defense, because that is, as long as flow is gonna be a dominant node in Alliance Wars, he's gonna see his use, not just low-level, he's gonna see his use in tier 2, 3, 1, whatever else, because yeah, he can be tricky, because flow node is that OP. Other than that, historically, there have been places where Yellowjacket commonly appears on your offensive team, and that has always been Labyrinth of Legends, because he was one of the guys that was kind of like in the most common attack synergy team that you were required to use when you were running a Labyrinth of Legends. So for those of you who do not know, Labyrinth of Legends has enrage timers, and basically you need to make sure that your champion's attack is about 2000 in order to get the longest enrage timer. And most of the rank 4 champions in game, and all of the rank 4 champions that kind of like were available initially when Labyrinth came out, required to have some sort of boost via synergies in order to hit that 2000 mark. For instance, Star-Lord's attack is something like 1800 something. He needed about 18% of attack increase in order to reach 2000 attack mark. And Yellowjacket did that. He was most commonly and wildly accessible synergy team was 2 Yellowjackets and an Ant-Man, or 2 Ant-Mans and a Yellowjacket. I forgot which one it was, but basically he was part of that synergy team, and hundreds if not thousands of people used Yellowjacket together with Ant-Man in order to increase that attack reach, at 2000 attack barrier kind of like needed in order to get that prolonged enrage timer. Because also, fun fact, your masteries did not account for that, and neither did boosts. Only thing that was counted in this calculation of reaching the mark of 2000 attack was synergies, such as Yellowjacket plus Ant-Man, because they have return attack synergy. So basically just sticking them 2 in already gave you 12% attack increase, and obviously your champion's base attack line. So he actually was commonly mentioned in a lot of endgame piece of content, especially in Labyrinth, when majority of the people who initially jumped in Labyrinth or jumped within like the first year or 2 quite often ended up using Yellowjacket and Ant-Man as their synergy team to empower their Star-Lord, let's say, or whoever else was needed to get in Labyrinth and get that longer exchange and rage timer and make it cheaper. Now, when it comes to his actual synergies and to that benefit him, there's really nothing worthwhile. All of his synergies are extremely basic, kind of like idle and attack and so on and so forth. So he has gotten absolutely no love. Only synergy that's kind of worthwhile to mention, I suppose, is with Wasp, that basically lets him have a 40% chance to reapply his power sting after they expire, and that's it. It still does make him a good champion, still extremely situational, and unfortunately quite rubbish, and definitely nowhere near close to enough to bring a rubbish champion into some sort of potential spotlight. So Yellowjacket kind of stinks, is relatively actual as a war defender at the moment, but other than a champion that's being stuck on defense, he really doesn't have much to offer. Okay, and now that we have discussed that, let's move on to the verdict. And verdict is that he's a forgettable villain from a forgettable and a forgettable MCOC champion, because there's nothing in him. He literally has one of the shortest ability descriptions, and he offers you pretty much nothing as an offensive option, in my opinion. And maybe somebody can make elaborate on me what else can be his potential uses, but I doubt it will be anything worthwhile. And yeah, so his verdict, it's like a bum decided not to really bother. It's kind of like gave up halfway through creating the champion. Anyways, he's arena fodder and alliance war defense dropped. That's literally all you're going to use this champion for. You can place him in alliance war defense or use him in arena. Realistically, you will never bring him in any single quest for what he's able to offer, which makes it all the shittier time when you pull him as a 6th, I suppose. But hey. Right, let's jump back to the scene here, because we're going to be pretty much done with today's video. I don't want it dragged out too long, so hopefully you did like today's video. If you did like today's video, and if you have made it this far, then here's a Baby Groot for you, because who doesn't like Baby Groot? Look at him with that deadly explosive in his hand, fingers centimeters away from killing us all. If you do not like Baby Groot, or if you did not watch this far, therefore I can confidently insult you knowing that you will not be seeing this, here, this is what you should go. You should get out. Even though you already have, if you haven't seen. Oh man, logic is not strong with me today. Either way, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit all of the buttons, not the Baby Groot button though. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. I'm done here for today. Laters.